So I'll just quickly go ahead and I'll let you know when was this batch actually introduced, what was the the modules that we introduced initially. Okay, so guys, give me just like 1 minute. All right, so guys, it's yeah, so if you guys remember, during the month of Jan, okay, might be Jan 6th or 8th, we started up with this batch. Okay, so this batch was initially called as Firewall Mastery 5-in-1 batch. So under this module, what we had planned was, we had planned to cover all the top technologies like Palo Alto firewall, the checkpoint firewall, Fortigate, Fi LTM module, ASA. So how many are they? They are five, right? So 1 to 5. Then what happened once we introduced this course to the students? Then we made some changes here. Let's say for ASA, we introduced FTD topics, firepower topics, which is a next generation firewall. Okay, and rest is going on. So as of now, we have completed with the Palo Alto. We are done with the Palo Alto, and this batch at that month or on that particular month was decided to be kept at 8:30 p.m. IST. Okay, so all those enrollment happened, all the student who joined this batch, they joined considering 8:30 p.m. IST. So now when I say Palo is done, we are going to continue the same batch for a different module. Now it's time for the FI LTM. Once again, the reason for taking up FI LTM next was because of its popularity. Okay, so we had the highest admission done for Palo Alto. The next highest was F5. Okay, and there is where I am here to present F5 LTM module to you guys. And yes, I have very less chances of changing this time, because those who have enrolled last month, they all enrolled considering this time. Okay, so if you guys want, I can do a half an hour of buffer. We can have a class at least half an hour late, or if you want to keep it half an hour early, I can do that, so that that doesn't make much disturbance to the other people. Okay, so this was a brief on this. But yes, what happened was, once we completed Palo Alto, which was kept initially Thursday to Sunday, now we also introduced another Palo Alto, a different batch for Palo Alto, and it's a weekend batch. Okay, so parallelly we are running the different thing. Now regarding to the F5 module, okay, F5 LTM module, once we are done with the F5 LTM module, we will straight away go towards the next module, which is ASA FTD. Okay, so all the syllabus PDF are put up on the website. I'll just walk through on these PDF first. So this is the link. Okay, so this is the website link. It's short and simple: Firewall Mastery 5-in-1. Okay, if you type this Firewall Mastery 5-in-1, you're gonna get all the PDFs. Okay, and you can just do a you can open them in a tab.
Agar, what's the update on the final lab which we were supposed to do for the Palo Alto?
I seriously don't have any update for that. That is why to some student I told that whichever batch we are introducing, right, the Palo Alto, the weekend batch from a different trainer. So I'll give the offline access. I'll give the video access to that as well to you guys. Okay. And what I'll
But
do is,
offline lab doesn't make sense now.
no, no. Then what I'll plan is, when this weekend batch is going to end, So I'll invite you all guys to that class itself, the last
Okay,
class.
okay,
Yeah.
then it just
Okay,
fine. Thank
so
you so
you
much.
will get both the things. One thing is a new trainer with the new experience and the new way of teaching. You will get the recording, and also the last day of that Palo Alto, you guys are all invited to that so that you can have a open discussion with the trainer. Okay.
Okay, okay,
All
thank you.
right. All right. Okay, guys. So let's come to the syllabus PDF. So these are all the PDFs for each module which was kept under Firewall Mastery. So this is Palo. Let's not go to Palo. Let's focus on the F5. Okay. So what I need to do is I'll click on the download button, and there we have the F5 syllabus copy. So if I zoom this, we can see these are the topics that's been set for the F5 load balancer. Okay. So starting from very scratch, like what are F5 networks, what are certificates, the terminologies, how do we set up them, local lab. You know that we give you the remote lab, but still, if you wanna practice it after the completion of this batch, you can have your own offline lab as well, done on EVNG or VM workstation or GNS. Okay. Then how do we register for F5 and get the trial license? So these product will not work until you have a license. Okay. Good thing is, if you go and register with F5, they are gonna give you 30 days of evaluation license, and using that license we can enable this module LTM, local traffic manager. Okay. So rest of the topics, I don't think you will understand what do you mean by all these terms. So I'll just keep this PDF for you guys, so that you know what is the progress of the class when we go ahead and proceed in this module. Okay. So in short, I can tell you that we will start from scratch. We will go to the web configurations, pool configuration. We will see the monitors. We will see the SSL certificates. We will see what do you mean by SSL termination, SSL offloading. We will see different algorithms in the F5 which is used for load balancing. Okay. And lot of interesting topics like source NAT. Okay. You have SSL profile labs that you need to do, the packet filtering troubleshooting commands, the TCP dump command. How do you take the QK file? So QK file is like your show tech support file. So if you are from the Cisco world, you might have known there is a command called show tech support. Whenever there is a tag kind of ticket, they usually ask us to take this and send them, right? Similar way in F5, we call it as QK view, which is gonna pull all the backup or everything, all the details like the web details, the monitor details, everything will be taken up in that QK view. Okay. And we usually upload this on the F5 website. So I'll tell you all those things. Okay. And then
Sagar,
yes.
sorry to interrupt. Sagar, you have the summary of this F5 or Palo Alto or ASA, FTD and all, because that might be needed for adding in the CV. So, is there
Summary,
something
I
that
didn't get you. Summary in the sense.
the consolidation of all this 73 points means I cannot add this all 73 points. It has to be in a sequence, right? So, is
Okay.
there a summary build from you guys where we can use this to add in the
Re-
resume
Resume,
CV?
right? Okay, I can help
Yeah.
you with that. So you don't have
Okay.
to mention everything. I will
Yeah,
give you.
actually, yeah, the
Yeah.
key points you can help us with,
Yeah,
so
I
we
will
can
give you.
specifically add that, and the recruiter knows what we are talking about.
Yes, I will give you 5 to 6 key points for all the technology which holds good for from the interview point of view. Okay.
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Yes. Yes, we have a brief on iRules as well. Okay. So we will have the iRules class where we'll discuss about iRule and writing iRule list. Okay. Hmm. All right, guys. So this was regards to F5 load balancer syllabus. I know you might have worked or you may not have worked so far. So I don't want to go and call out this name because it will not make any sense if I tell what is this, what is monitor, until we cover them. Okay. All right. So now come to the intro part. regards to the course intro. Before I go to course intro, I would like to know from you guys, have you worked on LTM or any of the FI products, or what is the scope that you've been working, or why did you enroll this batch? I mean, what is the demand in your country for FI, or was it just because it's a combo package you went with FI? So what is your understanding? I mean, so that I can also prepare myself while I present this whole batch to you guys.
This is Fawad. I can go first.
Okay.
Basically, what's about to happen in our job is that we are planning to deploy a 5 GMP, the DNS version of it, and the DNS, as what I understand, sits on top of LTM. So I was planning to, and they have tasked me with starting and deploying everything from scratch within probably the next 3 to 6 months. So I kind of wanted to kind of start and learn about LTM in full details because the next step would be install GTM on top of that, right? So that is why I wanted to learn LTM and have no background in LTM. Literally started from scratch. I read a couple of articles, want to know how whips are created and all that kind of stuff in details to understand all the concepts. But basically, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thanks, Fahad.
So I have done the deployment for LTM and ASM. So now we are focusing on overlay technology using NSX. So
Okay.
most of the clients are focusing on F5 or they should move with AV, which has been recently acquired by VMware. So
Okay.
that's the reason I want to brush up the skills so that either we pitch F5 or we move forward with AV. Our most focus is on the designing part of F5 in the DMZ and the core data center network.
Okay. All right. I can also see from the chat that some have no experience. What about the other folks from the meeting?
Hi, Sagar Harshan.
Yeah, hi Arshan.
Hi. Yeah, basically no experience in F5. I work in MSP
Okay.
in the education side. Yeah, but just to enhance my skills up to the level as well because F5 is actually in demand. Though I do have experience in the firewall side, I thought of having some the good knowledge in F5 as well, so I could literally just brush up my skills or enhance my skills as well. And that will help me to just to go on a different position as well from where I actually work. So yeah, that's the main reason right now to enroll for the F5 course.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay, guys. Okay. So I see there are people with zero background knowledge on this. So I will start always my batch from the scratch. Okay. So don't worry for that. So when we say LTM or the F5 product, okay. So this one box, a physical box, this can be also deployed over on the EXI, the virtual thing. This whole single box can act a complete networking unit, because I can do routing enable in this. I can put the static routing. I can create these VIP concepts. Okay, so VIPs are nothing but the virtual instances to handle the servers. Okay, so this box, this F5 box, act as a proxy to the backend boxes. So let's say in the backend I have my server once again could be virtualized, or a physical box, could be anything. Now what happened is I have to connect in this way. So my traffic, anything is coming from anywhere, if it is going inside the F5, now F5 will push it to the backend. That is the work of LTM. Okay, LTM is one module that's been introduced by Bigip. Okay, so Bigip is the company name. Like how we have Cisco, and then Cisco has multiple products, like one of them is ASA. or let's say I have a router, or I have a switch, right? So when I consider Cisco ASA, ASA is the product name, Cisco is the brand name. Agree? Similar way, in the case of big IP FI LTM, this goes with the brand name and LTM act as the product. I can say it as product, or I can say it as a module. So when I say LTM is one of the module, so we need to understand what are the different modules that's available from these guys, these big IP guys. Okay, so I have pulled up a image here to show you all the modules that's been supported. Okay, so the modules, the basic module is LTM, local traffic manager, which is just to handle the incoming traffic. Okay, once you have this concept of traffic entering your box, then comes the security, then comes the policy, then comes the uh, different aspects of securing the traffic, all those things, right? So that is the next level. But if you see right now, from the module point of view, LTM, GTM, ASM, APM, AAM, AFM. Okay, so these are few of the modules, and if I just have to give you brief on each one of them, okay, like one sentence, I can say it in one sentence. So let's go with the first one. Okay, that is the LTM module. So let me bring my Epic pen. Okay, so if you see here, the first module is LTM, which stands for Local Traffic Manager. Okay, the work of LTM is, or work of this module is, if a incoming traffic enters to the box, how the box need to treat it. Okay, so let's say I have a F5 box and I have put the license to activate LTM if a traffic enters. Now, how is F5 gonna serve the traffic, or how is that F5 gonna treat that traffic? Okay, so that's the role of LTM, local traffic manager. It can send the traffic to the first server, or it can send to the second server, or it can send to the third server. Okay, let's say first one is highly utilized. Now what F5's work is, it needs to check what are the other server which can handle this incoming traffic. So let's assume this was the server which was having the least connection or least utilization. So the F5 is gonna divert the traffic to the server. That's the work of LTM, very simple. But as I told, when the incoming traffic start coming, there could be man in middle attack, okay, MIM. There could be the DDoS attack, there could be security breaches. There is where the other concerns like SSL certificate, and yes, if what if from the standalone, or what if from the uh, device availability point of view, what if this device is down all of a sudden, so you need to have another F5 in your enterprise, right? So we call this approach or this concept as high availability, HA. So we will see what type of HA does F5 support, how do we configure them. Okay, there are a lot of concept in LTM itself, like self IP, okay, SNAT, you have VIP, you have pool, you got monitors. Okay, the monitor is nothing but to keep a track of the servers. What if the server is down? So do you think your FI is still gonna push the traffic to the server which is down? No, because you have a active monitor. It's gonna keep a track of every server. If a server is down, it will notify F5, and F5 will put it under temp disable mode. So this will not come up until the server has been fixed. Okay, so that's the all work of F5 LTM. Okay, in very short, we will go topic by topic, because LTM is the one which we are covering in this batch. Okay, when we come to GTM, it deals with DNS. Okay, so let's say I have a data center 1, and I have a data center 2, and then I have a user who is very close to my data center too. So let's assume if his request is going to internet, right? Now, internet can either serve the traffic over on DC1 or it can serve the traffic to DC2. But let's assume it in this way. This server is kept in United States and the other server was kept, or the other enterprise was kept in India. And this guy is somewhere close to India. Okay, let's say some Asian country. Now, why do you think his traffic, the internet must decide to forward it to US, right? If he see, there is no harm sending there, but the latency issues will always there. The user is gonna have a bad experience of using your product, right? So what we do is we keep this GTM or a DNS. Now what happens is, if someone try to access your product, this GTM DNS, it will redirect the traffic on depending upon the shortest distance. Okay, now the traffic will be sent to the DC2. That's how GTM is a different module which take care of the traffic served purpose. Okay, now we are not talking from the traffic which is going inside the box. Okay, see, in the case of LTM, we were discussing about the traffic which is going inside the Fi box, and the main point of LTM was to share the traffic, to share the load balancing, or to share the uh, servers. If I have 3 servers, I want all the 3 servers to be utilized in a very systematic way. So all of them should have 33, 33 and 33% of utilization. That's the whole concept of LTM when the traffic goes inside, and LTM is kept in your LAN segment. I can tell in that way also. LTM is a part which is kept in LAN, or you can keep it in the DMZ, or you can keep it in the inside zone to serve the traffic. We will see more. But when we talk from GTM, it's not your LAN segment. It's more your WAN part now. Okay, it's dealing with the traffic now. If a traffic from a user is coming from, let's say, from Asian country, so his traffic should be diverted towards the shortest DC or nearest DC. I can say in that way. Wherever is the nearest DC, it must divert it. Okay, so we don't have any GTM topic in this module, in this LTM module or this course, but yes, we have a dedicated different batch as well where we cover LTM, GTM and ASM. Okay, so anyone who wants to go in depth of Fi, and if you want to learn all the modules, then we have a different dedicated batch for all the 3 modules. Okay, or you can go with any 2 modules because LTM you're gonna cover in this batch, so you can opt for the other 2. Okay, but it's fine if you don't want to go very technical here in Fi. You can stick with LTM because during your interview most of the questions will be from the LTM part. Okay, they might ask you what do you understand by the other modules, but they will never go in very depth here. Okay, the all questions most of the time would be from LTM. Okay, from the service companies basically. Yes, depends again from company to company. If they are more into software development or their main business is to sell their product, they keep these LTM, GTM and other components of the Fi. Okay, all right, so let's see what is ASM. So ASM stands for Application Security Manager. So once the traffic starts hitting, now comes the security, right? So you have to have these firewall, inbuilt firewall, I can say in that way. So when they say incoming traffic from the internet, and these traffic is then finally gonna be sent to these servers which is kept in your LAN, and these softwares or these servers have your products, or it has any HTTP applications. Now you have to also make sure the traffic is not being breached, right? So you have some inbuilt firewall to be deployed, right? So this is under the module ASM. ASM stands for Advanced Security Manager, more like firewall thing. Okay, If you need more security, then you need ASM inbuilt to the F5 product. Coming to APM, it stands for it stands for Access Policy Manager. Okay. Once again, from the security point of view, whom do you need to allow over on your network or cloud or application or end users, right? So more security now. Again, it's a advanced module of F5. So these are all the advanced module. If we ignore LTM, these are gonna be the advanced thing. Some company don't use them because they have other products, alternative products. You might heard about the blue code proxy, right? So there are some Sophos proxy. So yes, there are alternatives, but yes, there are company who will go with these modules as well. So LTM serves the mandatory module for any company. That's why LTM is very popular when compared to the others can have some alternative. Okay, LTM also have alternative. I don't say that LTM don't have alternative. Cisco had some load balancer earlier. Okay, there are Zscaler products, but yes, when it comes to leading, the big IP product is the one which is used by majority of enterprises. Okay, big IP LTM product. All right, so we know what is policy manager. What do you understand by AAM? So AAM stands for speed. Okay, so in short, application acceleration manager. Now you're thinking from the user point. You're giving the speed to the user's traffic. If a user is accessing something, so how much can you allocate the traffic? Something like your QoS in Cisco world. You have done routing, you have done switching, you are put all the IP services, DHCP, NAT, right? Now then comes the quality management. Which traffic should be treated at a highest priority, right? So once you're done with the basic networking, then comes the tuning of that. So AAM module deals with the acceleration. Okay, and AFM is once again into the security. We call this as application firewall manager. Okay, I have made use of this even in the case of ASM. ASM stands for security manager. Okay, the work of ASM is once again to optimize the application, to protect the application, a kind of a firewall, I can say. Okay, but yes, if you need a very advanced thing, then you can go with the AFM, whose work is to ensure the traffic which is entering and the traffic which is leaving the data center are not breached. Okay, and are the trustful traffic which is entering to the data centers. Okay, so these all modules has to be activated using license. So if you don't have the license, you will not be able to activate these modules. Even the basic LTM module, if you want to practice something on LTM, you must have the license. Okay, but the good thing here is F5 is gonna give us 30 days of free license. And yes, if we extend this course by another 2-3 days, let's say the batch code, let's say the course is gonna be 30 days, but if we need 2-3 extra days, my F5 will start my F5 will stop working now. Okay, so the module F5 will stop working. If it stops working, that means it's not gonna serve the traffic. Even if the traffic is entering the box, the traffic will not be processed anyway. Okay, so traffic is as good as getting dropped. So we have to once again go to the F5 website, get the license, top top it on this box and make it functional, and then the configuration will remain the same. No need of doing all the F5 certificate once again. configuration will be present, but the traffic serve will stop. There will be no traffic which is served by the box. So you have to top your license once again after the 30 days. Okay. So do we have a fair enough idea about the FI big IP products by now?
Quick question, Sagar.
Yes.
So you mentioned LTM. So what is the difference between this LTM F5 Big IP LTM and the regular F5 Big IP that I've seen being used throughout my professional career? There's always a load balancer in front of all the application servers. The regular standard legacy F5 and this hardware F5 LTM. You understand my question? Because there's already existing F5, and then this is something new. This big IP
No,
F5
no, no,
LTM.
no, no, no. This is the same.
Oh, both are the same
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And
So in a short form, most of the people call it only F5, but Big IP F5 is the complete name, and the company name is Big IP here. So together we call it as Big IP F5 LTM. So in short, we can call it as F5 LTM, or if we call just LTM, that's also understandable. Big IP is a company name. Okay, if I take you to the official website, so you can see here the logo has that F5 symbol, and Big IP is what they have, the it as a service or it as a company name. Okay, so we call, yeah, so we call it together as Big IP F5 LTM or F5 Big IP LTM or only LTM. Okay. All right. So guys, do we have a fair enough idea as of now what is LTM and what why do we use LTM, or where is it kept actually? So where do you think the LTMs are deployed in the enterprise or any LAN? Yes, it can be kept in DMZ. It can also be kept in the inside zone, depending upon your own requirements. Okay, so let's say, yes, DMZ is one of them, no doubt. Okay, so usually how it works is, so let's say if I have a internet router which is connecting to the ISP. Okay, so this router will be then connected to a firewall. We have the ASA, or we can keep a Palo, any firewall, and then behind this we can keep the FI product. Okay, I can deploy the FI LTM here, and then I can keep some switches, layer 2 switches, and then I can deploy those servers. This is where we have this in the inside zone of the firewall. But let's say we are maintaining the DMZ concepts, okay, for giving access to the customer. So we can have multiple servers kept here, hundreds of VMs or hundreds of servers kept here. Now I can also keep a F5 here. I can put a F5 over here so that my traffic is equally getting shared. So the TCP connection with respective to first server then goes to second, third, and so on. Similar way in the inside zone, since we have the backend servers, okay, it depends from company to company. If your company has like more than 20,000 of employees, then your own internal infrastructures, you might have a lot of VM set, or there could be some application developers where the servers are kept in the inside zone. They don't need the servers to be kept on the DMZ, because DMZ most of the time is given to the customers or the outside traffic, right? But when you yourself, your company is yourself into the product or the software manufacturing, so your server deployments would be already in thousands. and you need a FI to handle the request, because from the data centers, from the other data center of your own company, they might try to access some other data centers product. Okay, let's assume in this way. Let's say a event is coming up. Let's say a basketball event is coming up in a few days. Okay, and from one data center users, they wanna handle these ticketing tools, because during the events there is a requirement of ticketing tool. So this ticketing tool, you will give it to the vendors or the distributors where the tickets are sold, and these users or the fan who wants to go and watch this basketball live match, they have to book the tickets, right? So there should be a ticketing tool. So this ticketing tool is kind of a web portal, and this web portal is stored in this sorts of web servers. Why I'm considering this data center is, let's assume that this event is be gonna happen in this location, right? So your expected traffic is somewhere coming from here, but the developers are not here. Let's say there are less number of developer here, so all your developers are sitting here. Okay, so now what the first phase of the thing that they are gonna do is, the first phase is to create the web portal, to test it, right? So they are not gonna do that in the DMZ zone. They need the control of the inside. So inside is where you will have your FI, which will do the load sharing, where they will gonna create, test, and then those services, then they will deploy in the DMZ, and then this DMZ will be given to the distributor, so that distributor's traffic is only hit to the DMZs. Okay, so depending upon the requirement, you can keep the LTM boxes. Okay, so there are different type of hardwares used, which we will talk in the next class. Okay, so for today's class, what I'll do is, I'll go with the lab showcase. Okay, I want to show you how would our lab look like. So this is the overview of the lab, which you see. It's done on the GNS box. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. So if you see here, what I've done is, I've kept one ASA firewall. So you guys will, those who doesn't know anything about the firewall, you guys will understand how do we allow the policy and what are the concepts of outside, inside, and DMZ. Okay, we can deploy one DMZ F5, but it's the same one and the same. You can just consider this as DMZ zone itself, no harm. Okay, we have a F5 box, the F5 LTM box. That's why I've written it as full name, F5 big LTM box. Okay, and we have two switches, layer 2 switches, and we have some servers kept. So this is in this network, 192.168.100 network, and then we have different servers also, 200. There could be many more servers, but in the lab we are okay with 2 or 3 networks. Okay, you are feel free to deploy more network and start configuring. Okay, and how do we control the F5? See, F5 works on two mode. One is graphical and the other one is CLI. Okay, first thing what we need is, we need the CLI. Okay, the moment I power on F5, I can take the console. So the console will be opened up in the CLI. I'm gonna set the default password, very important, because by default F5 comes with admin and default as a password. Okay, the moment you enter this, F5 will ask you to change it immediately. Okay, and then you have to do that as your step number 1. Once you change that to any custom password, the second thing is your management IP. Good thing is already a static IP would be set up 1.245/24, so we don't have to actually worry about changing it. That's why you can see me, I have used the same thing here, 1.245. If you want, you can change it, because every production or every enterprise, they keep their own set of standard management IPs, right? But this is a lab, so we are good with it. But my point is, there comes a default IP, okay? So that is 1.245. Now we can put a browser. We just need a browser here, and we can keep this browser in 1.1, so that I can take the GUI of this, or the graphical interface of this. Okay, now I have my CLI where I have done the password change. Let's assume that I'm gonna keep the same management IP. So my work is done with CLI. Okay, so just a basic 2-3 commands on CLI. Once we are good with that, then we can move towards the GUI. The graphical will do 99% of your task. You don't have to go back to CLI to do anything. But again, if you're good at CLI, you can simplify your job. Okay, because what happens with the graphical is, to do a simple task you have to follow the on-screen method. So let's say, to just create a whip, you might have to follow 4 to 5 on-screen steps. Step number 1, some set of instruction, then you will click on next, then the step number 2 where you will enter more details, and then comes your final whip. But the same thing, with the help of CLI, you can just write one straight lengthy command and you can configure the same thing. Okay, so I will show you both. Wherever there is need, I will show you both, that is CLI and GUI, because while you troubleshoot, while you are capturing TCP dump, while you are taking the QK view or the backup, even then the CLI is very helpful. Okay, so keep CLI as your backup, but don't go to the CLI if your company doesn't want or let you to use CLI, because there are chances that you commit mistake in the CLI. Okay, that is why this, to make the simplify the graphical is given. Okay, but again, it's up to you. During the interview, the interviewer can ask you whether you know only the graphical, or you know the CLI, just to understand how and what in depth you know about F5. Okay, so if you are good at CLI, even they don't use CLI, that shows that you have worked in depth on this module. Okay, it gives more trust about you knowing the product. Okay, so take in that way, take it from the good note. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
Quick question.
Yes.
Are you going to touch on the default shell as well?
Yes, we are gonna touch all the debugs and all the modes here, TMSH, bash, everything will be done. Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So you were speaking about this 192, 168, 1.245 slash 24 and all that. Assigning of all these IPs, obviously right now I don't know what the sub IP LAN is and all that. I'm sure you're going to go through that, all that. But
Yes.
do you assign all those IPs, or is it done by network team and hand it to you, or how does
No, this
whenever the
is
time comes, if you want to go into the details of that
y-
a little bit more, then
yes.
I'll let you do that.
Yeah. So this IP
What
schema,
these IPs are and everything.
yeah. So these IP schema are totally from myself. Okay. There is no one who gave me this. Again, this is a lab, so you can take anything. I mean, you're up to you, whichever you want to go ahead and you want to configure. But we will always follow what we have learned so far in our routing and switching, or the best practices that we use, or what we did in CCNA or CCNP. Okay, so for outside world, always we'll go with the public IP. For the inside, we will follow the private network. Okay, RFC 1918. So keeping this point into consideration, I have come up with this IP schema. So if you see here, backend servers are something which is kept in the LAN. So it makes more sense if I go with a private network here. So that is why I preferred keeping it 192.168.100 series. Okay, and similar way, one more VIP which I need, so that I can give you assignment, or I can ask you guys to configure something. So another set of uh, private IPs for the LAN or the inside network. Similar way, when we have the VIP configuration, I can create these VIP either in the public IP address schema or the private. Okay, so when I say public, just take that basketball event, because users are, could be home users or could be friend circle who want to access from their mobile and book the ticket. So it could be anything, the traffic coming from the cloud or the internet. So we need a public VIP in that case. When do we need private? Let's say a company user to a server. If the traffic is just between the employee and the server could be your payroll, or let's say your attendance, or let's say your own internal services. So in this case you don't need public IP, because you know public IP you're gonna spend money. For every IP you're gonna spend money, and there's scarcity of these IPs, right? So you will prefer having private IP schema. That's why I kept one of the IP in the private network, keeping the example 2 as consideration. And similar way, you can see me using another public IP, keeping this basketball event as an example. Okay, similar way, when we deal with the webs, or when we deal the concept of VLAN inside the LTM product, each VLAN will have its own IP, something like SVI in Cisco world. Okay, in short, I can say that if I have a user 1 and I have a user 2 here, if this is on the network 1.2 and if this is on the network 168.2.1, and if they both want to communicate, let's say they are on a class C, so by default they don't communicate, because this is 1.x and this is 2.x, right? So how do we communicate? So I can plug a L3 box, L3 switch, and then I can configure my interfaces. Okay, so SVI, where I can configure VLAN 100 and give its own IP address. So I can make it 192.168 1.1 or whatever. Okay, so when you have the VLAN configured with an IP address, so basically this now start acting as a L3. Okay, what is L2 VLAN then? L2 VLAN is your basic VLAN. When you configure VLAN 100, and if you just name it as like IT VLAN, we call this as L2 VLAN. What is L3 VLAN? L3 VLAN is when you go with the command interface VLAN 100, and then you configure an IP address and make it L3 capable. Okay, so 192.168.100.1 or /24. Now this act as your L3 network, L3 VLAN. So L3 VLAN and L2 VLAN. Okay, so this concept, L3 VLAN concept in F5 is nothing but the self IP. So every VLAN will have its own IP address. That's why when I say I have my VLAN 100.x, so this is gonna be the self IP for that. Okay, when I have my second network, then I have its own self IP. So every VLAN in F5 is gonna have its own IP. It's called as self IP. Okay, we will see this how do we configure in the LTM. So similar way for internal VLAN, for external VLAN, I have configured these self IP concepts. Okay, then coming once
So
we are,
basically,
yeah.
you have a chunk of IP addresses, and you are dividing those IP addresses into these different nodes or segments or interfaces, whatever you call them.
Yes, yes. So these are totally free for me, because this is a lab setup and I don't have
So it
to.
is generally.
Yes. See, generally, I would say when you are going with a private setup, you can go with either 192, 168 this segment, or you can go with that 172 16 dot series, or you can also go with 10 dot series. So these will be your preferred option when you want a private IP schema. And when you need a public IP schema, you can go with either of 200 series, or all the other than these three segment. All rest are the public IP. Yes, there are some reserved ones in between, 224 which is kept for multicast, 127 which is kept for loopbacks. So ignore these or exclude them, and these are totally usable for you guys in the lab, not in the real world. I'm not talking about real world, but at least in the lab, like GNS and uh, GNS or EVNG or any emulators, if you are deploying in your own offline practice or your lab local laptop installation, you can go with this. Okay, so that you can easily understand where the traffic is coming on or where the traffic is going. See, there is no thumb rule that you cannot use this in the lab for the private side, but then you are actually going with the bad design point of view. So I would say, since we are following this practice of keeping private in the inside and public in the outside, we will follow the same best practice. So does that answer your question, or you have any doubt?
I have some more questions, but let's carry on
Okay.
once we with physically.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Okay, okay. Yeah. So guys, if you see
Once
here,
we clear as a
yeah, so if you see here, this whole portion is in the private network, and I'm making use of these 192, 168 subnets, and on this side I have the public IP schema. Okay, I can go with anything, 21165 series or 131 series. I think I have picked up 34 and I have picked up 65. Okay, so 34 is here. Sorry, not there, over here. This is gonna be 34 series. You can see the IP schema, and then I'm using this interface as 65. Okay, just for our understanding and for labbing purpose. Yes guys, so I can see one question put up. Does that mean VLAN for F5 need to have their layer 3 gateway self IP on the F5, not on your core switch? Okay, so in the case of F5 load balancer, you configure any backend servers. Okay, so each VLAN is gonna have its own self IP. So that's how these are designed. The gateway can be anywhere, it doesn't make sense. Okay, your gateway can be on the core switch, or you have a firewall like ASA, which where you have the gateways, but the self IP is still created on the backend. Otherwise, it's not going to understand on which VLAN the traffic is coming from. Let's say encapsulation or tagging, right? How would the F5 understand where this traffic is coming in, or which VLAN the traffic is meant for, to allow, whether it's a VLAN 10 or VLAN 20? The gateway can be anywhere. It doesn't should be over on the F5. Okay, so those who didn't understand, let me just draw it here. See, there are F5 where you can keep this F5 as a L3 gateway. That means all these network will have a L3 gateway here. But that's one scenario. You can also keep F5, you can also keep your firewalls, and the behind the firewalls you can keep the servers. Now for these servers, your firewall is gonna have that L3 gateway. Okay, and in such scenarios what happens is, by default F5 will not be able to talk to the backend server. So you have to go and write your policy to allow this communication between F5 and your servers. Okay. So even that case over here, I have to configure the self IP. So self IP is nothing but it's like a tagging. If a traffic is coming from VLAN 10, so self IP, I have an option to set my IP address and to set what is the tag that I'm going to see here. Okay, so from that point of view, we need self IP. So a self IP is must for all the VLANs that you are gonna configure on F5. No matter L3 is on your firewall, or you have a router acting as a core router, even then you will create one self IP here. Okay, for your traffic to go in and out. Okay, so
Could you repeat that concept again, please?
okay. Okay, so if you see here, F5, where the backends are directly behind the F5. So in this scenario, my gateway can be directly on the F5. So for 100 series and 200 series, the gateway is directly F5, the first hop I can call it. But what if in a scenario where servers are kept behind a firewall? Okay, behind a firewall, you have the servers kept, and these servers now are to be used over here on the F5. So your F5, while you go and start working on F5, where you start configuring VIP, pool, members. So members are nothing but these backend servers. Okay, now they will be problem. Okay, F5 will not be able to dock directly to the servers. The reason is firewall is implicitly denying all the traffic, right? So you have to write the policy so that your backend is talking to the servers. Okay, now in this scenario, my firewall is L3 gateway for those servers which are behind F3, or behind the firewalls. Okay, now what is self IP in that case? So self IP is something which you are setting on to all the VLANs that you're gonna create for behind F5. Okay, so let's say these are on VLAN 50, these are on VLAN 100, these are on VLAN 200. Okay, three different VLANs. So from F5 point of view, when you are gonna talk to these different servers in three different network, so each network will have its own IP. So for example, I will say 192.168.50.1 is the self IP for VLAN 50. Similar way, I can say 192.168.100.1 is gonna be my self IP for the VLAN 100 traffic. Okay, so basically what it does, it's gonna tag the traffic. I will show you the GUI for this so you can understand it much better. So let's say I have one more lab with me called as Firewall Mastery, where I have all the five technologies added up. Okay, so here if I take the management access of this F5, okay, so this is how the graphical interface is seen. Okay, I cannot zoom it much, so I hope this is visible. Okay, so if I go to the networks and if I go to the self IPs, so you can see me that I have configured two self IPs right now. Okay, so let's open that. So this is one self IP for this VLAN. So for inter VLAN 100. So for my internal VLAN 100, I said this is my IP. Or if I go with the new configuration of VLAN, you see what all the information it's gonna ask. You're gonna name that first, saying external. You're gonna configure an IP for that, so that IP must be from that same VLAN. You'll configure the net mask, okay. Then you are gonna say which VLAN is this self IP being created, whether it's for external, whether it's for DMZ, or whether it's for VLAN 100 or VLAN 200 or VLAN 500, whatever VLAN, you have to have a self IP, okay. So this is how the self IP is created. So there are
And
other,
just what
yeah.
I'm not understanding is where are you getting all these IP addresses and net masks from? Is that a pool that you just randomly pick any IP number out of that pool, or is there something
Randomly,
there?
purely random. For lab we don't need any standard, but for from enterprise point of view, what they do is they keep a IP schema, okay. But from lab point of view, it's a random IPs. I have put a practice that for self IP I'm gonna make use of the dot one. So this is how I have done in the lab point of view. But if you see from the enterprise, uh, all the FI management graphical interface, I have seen people keeping it in a 248 network. This is just a example where it represent 248 is gonna be FI management IP. Okay, so from company to company this can change. It's their own IP schema that they follow in their in their company or in their enterprise. Okay, so here in the lab we are the network administrator and we have to configure everything. I just kept dot one so that I can remember easily that this is dedicated for the self IPs. When it comes to the management, I just kept the default one 1.245 as it is. Okay, all the outside IPs I just picked it randomly, whichever came on top of my mind, just making sure that we follow the campus best practice, campus branch best practice, okay, enterprise best practice, public IP, private IP, the subnets. So you see here I could have made use of /24 over here, but I rather went with /30 because I only need two IPs here. I only need two IPs here between the two nodes. So if I go with 24, there could be someone later on who watched the recordings or someone in the audience itself, they can question me, is it a best practice to go with /24 for a public IP? So best practice doesn't say that, right? So I have to follow some best practice as well. So for public IP, I kept 30 because I get two free IPs here. Totally, there are four IPs here. The one is reserved, the one and the final one is reserved. One is for the network identifier and the other one is for the broadcast. So only available IPs for me is 2 and 3. So that's why I'm using dot 1 and dot 3 as usable. Okay, so dot 0 is non-usable and dot 3 is not non-usable. These are from the subnetting point. Okay, just a best practice, trying to match up with the best practice so that we don't follow some wrong design in the class and carry it or spread those knowledge to the folks or audience. Okay, so guys, this is your lab. This is the lab that you are gonna get it. I'll talk to the backend trainer, he will give this, but don't worry, I'll go ahead and I'll create a new blank project in the next class, and then we will go one after one. Okay, so what I'll do is, let me create one blank project saying that FI LTM Feb batch 2021, and I'll save this. Okay, so this way you will also know how do we design or how do we place or how do we keep this from the available nodes. I can plug one F5. Okay, what else do I need? I need a Cisco switch, L2 switch. The only work of this is broadcast, nothing else. I don't need routing here. Okay, and then I can keep some backend servers. So I have a blue server, I have some green servers or red server, whatever. Okay, I got some green servers here. Now I can start cabling them. So from my load balancer, I have couple of interfaces. Okay, F5 is little strange in this case. The reason is, in the case of F5, these node versus the real interface, what's available, they are gonna be little different. In the sense, if you see here, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, I have some interfaces, right? So they don't always go matched up with this list, or this available list. Let's say I have 1.1 and I just set it up in this way. Okay, you might be assuming now 1.1 is gonna be that interface which is connected to the switch, right? That would be anyone's assumption in a normal scenario. But in the case of F5, things are little different. I have observed this only for F5. Okay, now let's say you take the graphical. Once you take the graphical of F5, 1.1 don't have to be this interface. It don't have to be this interface. In real, might be 1.1 is that interface which is talking to outside. So you have to play and do some trial and error in this case. I have done the same thing while I set up my previous massive lab. I've done this trial and error. When I configured my GUI on 1.3, I was expecting 1.3 is gonna be my GUI, but then I realized it was a different interface. When I took the access, okay, when I went towards the graphical, I found out management is somewhere else. It's not actually the 1.3. So we have to play around. Okay, so I'll show you that. This is only from the lab concerns. Okay, from the lab point of view, you will see this issues. But when in the real world, the things are straightforward. You have your F5. Okay, they comes with the standard ports, Ethernet ports. So you cable them, and let's say you have a switch. So whatever you cable, let's say if it is 1.1, so they are gonna be 1.1 always. Okay, if you have another switch port with 1.2, which is connecting to ASA firewall, now that's a standard. But in the case of these emulators like GNS or EVNG, they lose their interface naming. Okay, because of these interface not being supported by GNS. So what GNS does is, GNS try to convert them. If in real the interface is 1.1, GNS will try to convert that into something which GNS can understand, something like this. Okay, so we need to do a small trial and error to find out which interface is to which interface. So I'll show you this uh, while we set this up. Okay, so right now let's configure the cables. So rest are same, no changes there. Whatever you interface you pick and whichever interface you plug, they are gonna remain same. Okay, so this is one basic example of setting up or cabling F5. Okay, let's not go towards the outside interface, but it is once again the same. I can take ASA firewall. Okay, I can plug a router, and then I can just give some cabling between them. Okay, we will not go with management because ASA has a graphical concept which is called as ASDM. So we can reserve management for that. Okay, so for now we will not go much into ASA because the next module after LTM is gonna be ASA itself. Okay, so in that class I will show you what are the graphical, what are the CLI mode of handling ASA box. Okay, all right. So let's say this is one standard setup of F5. We have backend nodes. We can configure VIP, and for generating traffic, we can push a traffic from here. Okay, I can plug a user here, something like this. So when this user is trying to access a server, so when this user is trying to access a server, basically he will not directly talk to the server. We have a proxy device. Okay, so the request will flow in this way and come to F5. Then F5 will decide whether it has to be sent to that server or to this or to this. Okay, we call this as load balancing algorithm. Or
Why do you need two proxies here? You already have F5 as a proxy, so I mean router. What? So why do you need two routers here?
see, F5 is not a router. Fi is not a router. It's
It
a
routes, right? No, it routes.
no. It is actually not routing here. It's actually doing a work of load balancing. Okay, it's not that I have configured some IPs which makes you think that it's doing the work of routing. It's not doing routing. It's actually taking the traffic to itself, and then it's deciding whom to send the traffic or whom to forward the traffic, whether to this, whether to the second, or whether to the third one. And the concept here that comes into picture is load balancing algorithm. So there are some load balancing that we configure here. By default, it's a round robin. So what happens is, if a traffic hits or traffic is entering F5, F5 will see which server is available from the round robin algorithm point of view. So first traffic will come here, second traffic will go here. Let's say alternatively there are some other traffic coming in. Now F5 will see, I just served the first server, now let me push the second traffic to the second server. Now let's say there is more traffic coming in, now that goes to the third server. Let's say the fourth traffic comes in, now the fourth is sent to this, and so on. So it's not routing or static routing, it is just that traffic is getting load shared. Yes, thumb rule is reachability. Of course, if I don't have reachability, then how would my Fi gonna serve the traffic, right? So intermediately you can have a firewall also. As I told you, if you have firewall intermediately, then you have to allow the policy so that Fi knows how to reach these web servers. But let's say if there is no concept of Fi, usually we just keep a switch, and behind the switch we keep all the servers. Now only work that Fi does is load sharing. It is just gonna share, and since they are all configured in a same network, we don't even have the concepts of routing. It's just broadcasting that's happening right now, because we just have a L2 switch which is doing the work of broadcast, the MAC address table, all those concepts. Okay, so basic thing is reachability, but from F5 point of view, it's about the load sharing that is happening. How are you distributing your traffic to the servers? So before we understand this, let's go with very legacy thing. Okay, legacy thing, that is, what if I only had servers? Okay, what if I just had server and I don't have a Fi, so that we understand why do we plug Fi in an enterprise, right? Because the applications are loaded here. So why don't we just give the access of these servers itself, right? That's a scenario 1. I can call it as scenario 1. Access directly to the servers. Why do we spend so much of money to this Fi product? If, even that's gonna do the same thing, it's gonna forward the traffic to the servers, but the web pages or whatever application or whatever products you have, it's loaded here. Even though you have F5, their products are loaded here. So why don't we directly give them, right? So that's a scenario 1. And let's discuss this scenario when you give the servers to the users. What's gonna happen? So let's assume I have a server, and I have some users here, okay, and rest of the things are my, let's say I have some cloud, internet, and all the other things like router or a switch and the server, okay. And this server is where I have kept my event tools, or the event registration website link or website. Now whenever the traffic gets into the network, it directly hit the server, okay. So one request came in. Now, let's say alternatively I have a different users who is also trying to book the ticket. So all the requests are directly handled by the servers now, okay. Now let's assume the server that you have in your network is of very high resources in terms of uh, the capacity. Let's say it's having i9 processor, it has 1 TB of RAM, okay, it has a 3 TB of hard disk. So it's all very high end server, but there is a limit for that server as well. What if the traffic initially were only 100 users? Now the traffic gradually the traffic increases to thousands users, and day of event might be that goes to 1 lakh, might be on the peak hours that goes to 5 lakh, right? So your traffic is also increasing, and at certain point, whatever server you plug, you will start seeing some limitation like performance. Your performance will degrade if the server is not able to handle these many traffic. Security concerns, okay, you can put some security here. You can put the concept of SSL, okay. Now what happens is your server will start spending some more overhead on the SSL process. Now SSL is a handshake, like we have the three-way handshake in TCP. Similar way, SSL also go with handshake process. So a traffic is coming in with some SSL encapsulation, your server will spend some percentage from its available resource on decrypting it, okay. So your server is now a standalone point for everything, for the incoming traffic, for the SSL offloading. So your features like performance get degraded. Let's say you don't have SSL, then you are gonna be having the security breach. If you have SSL, then the performance gets degraded. What if due to all these reasons your server is down? Now you have the availability issues as well. If a server is down, you, let's say you had only one server, all your registration will start failing now. So you have now business impact, right? So this is the drawback when you just keep a server, okay. There is why what was done in the scenario 2 is we started adding some DNS boxes, okay. So let's say the same diagram with multiple servers. Let's say I introduced multiple servers now, okay, and then I have the same concept of multiple users on the remote side, and then I have these cloud, my, okay, cloud, routers, a switch connected to multiple servers. Let's say all of them are i9 servers with a very high potential of 1 TB RAM. So to overcome from the scenario 1, we are now discussing the scenario 2. And in the scenario 2, we just added up a DNS box. Okay. So the work of DNS here is any traffic which is trying to hit, let's say, xyz.com. So this server resolution will first hit into the DNS box, and in the DNS box you have mapped your IPs. So xyz.com will resolve on different IPs. So let's say I have 1.1.1.1, I have 1.1.1.2, 1.1.1.3, 1.1.1.4. So this xyz.com will resolve to all these nodes. So what do we achieve now? We are achieving, or we are overcoming from that availability concern. Now if one server is choked up, let's say the first server, first traffic goes to DNS. Now DNS will resolve to 1.1, traffic goes to the first box. The second traffic will go to DNS will resolve to 1.1, it will go to the second box. Similar way, one more traffic goes to DNS will resolve that to 1.3, traffic will come here. Now you are definitely overcoming few of the drawbacks from the scenario 1, but still there is an issue here. Okay, scenarios like availability is okay. You have 4 servers, if one goes choked up, you have second one serving the traffic. You can also overcome the scenario of load sharing, because here there is no concept of load sharing. All the multiple traffic is being handled by this person, so I can say no load sharing here. Agree? So no load sharing happening. But here, since we have 4 servers, my load sharing concept is doable. Yes, I can have load sharing. Then what is the drawback of having DNS? Okay, the issue is, for example, if this goes down, there is no way DNS is gonna track which servers went down, because there is no concept of the algorithms that we just discussed in F5. There is no algorithm concepts in DNS. The work of DNS is to resolve on what is hard binded. These are hard binded to this domain. Okay, so DNS is just gonna forward it. Its work is to forward to these servers. That's all. There is no way the DNS is gonna know that this server is 90% utilized, or this server is completely down, or this is 1% utilized. So you are gonna fall under performance issue once again. Okay, the other issues is the yes, you can now talk from availability, that there is no availability, or there is no backup servers, no load sharing algorithms that you can use here, right? So these are the concerns in the scenario 2 when you have DNS to handle the multiple traffic. Okay, so now while we move towards the scenario 3, which is where I will introduce FI LTM, and we will understand how FI LTM will help us to overcome these issues, the issues that we just discussed in the previous cases. Okay, so let's say I have LTM here. I have a LTM box here. Behind LTM box, I am gonna keep a switch, and switch is connected to multiple servers. And this LTM box, as usual, connected to router, internet. We don't need a DNS now. Okay, let the traffic come from anywhere, any part of the city, any part of the country. The traffic will now directly hit the LTM. Okay, in the LTM world, we make use of a concepts of load balancing algorithms. it's gonna keep track of all the servers that it's connected to. Okay, so if a traffic 1 comes to the LTM will forward that to the first server. Now the utilization, let's say they were all 100% free when you just started up. Once the first traffic goes to the first box, let's say now 99% is free on the first box, whereas 100% free on the second and 100% free on the third one. Let's say the second traffic comes in. Now LTM is gonna push it to the second one, because the next available one with the highest utilization or highest free resource is the second box, right? Now this traffic is going to the second box, and now the free goes to 99%. Let's say one more comes to the LTM is gonna push it to the third. Now the free becomes 99. Now you see, all of them are gonna keep some standard ratio here. So it goes 98, this becomes 98, 98, 97, 97, 97. So you are fixing that load sharing feature. Okay, the second best thing about this is performance. You're not blindly gonna push it to one such server which is highly utilized. No more it can serve the traffic, right? That's not the issue in the case of LTM, because it's gonna keep the track of everything. It knows that my first server is being utilized by so and so percent. Now let me push the next traffic to the next server, and so on. So your performance is never a challenge here. Your performance is never been impacted. Okay, the third thing is availability. Okay, why I include this term here is, what happens if my server went down? We also saw this in the previous scenario where DNS was blind enough, where it had no way to know which server went down, right? So let's say in the case of LTM, what if the server went down? Now it's gonna have that algorithm, right? Load balancing algorithm, and it's also gonna make use of that monitor concept. So we will create a monitor. This monitor is proactively monitoring all the servers in the backend. If one goes down, the monitor will turn red. Once it turns red, what LTM is gonna do is it will put that under temp disable mode. So when the mode is set at temp disable mode, LTM is no longer gonna send any traffic to that. So no more traffic being sent. It will only send to this or this. Okay, traffic is just being load shared between the two available server. So your users are never impacted. That's why I say always they have a availability. The user's point of view, if you think from users, if they have to book the ticket from XYZ, so this URL is never a down scenario in this scenario when you have LTM, because your LTM, no matter whatever traffic comes in, your F5 LTM is gonna push it to that server which is capable of handling, or whichever is online, whichever is down, it's gonna put that under disable mode. Okay, and until or unless you fix that, it could be cable issue, it could be server issue, or the operating issue, any reason. Until you fix it, once again monitor turns the LED to green, it's not gonna change the state to available. Okay, and until then the LTM is not gonna push it to that. So availability of this becomes like 100%. Okay, and security. Now you don't have to put those security SSL certificates on your servers. We saw in the scenario 1 what happens when you put the SSL directly here. Okay, your server will start decrypting, encrypting. Now what are these terms? Something coming from here has to be decrypted so that server can understand what is the request for. So it has spent some overhead or utilization on decrypting. Now the same traffic, the written traffic, when it is going back, it has to be encrypted. Again, some of the percentage from its overhead or the resource is spent on that. So decrypting, encrypting, both is handled by server. But in the case of load balancer, you can use Fi for your SSL terminations. Okay. Now your SSL certificates are loaded on the LTM. What happens? Anything comes Fi, which is just used for this purpose, is gonna use its resources to either decrypt or encrypt and then send the plain text traffic to the backend. Now the traffic is just a plain text which is going to the backend. Okay, so that server don't have to spend any of its uh, resource on the encryption or decryption, because you have a better box, a high end box which can do the things. Okay, so security is also included along with a better way to handle it. So these are the reasons why we keep F5 or F5 load balancer. Okay, so are we good? Are we good with whatever we discussed, the three scenarios? Do you have any doubt with F5 LTM? Why do we deploy it in the enterprise, or you want to repeat something which you have not understood?
Other, if you can share some information on SSL uploading.
Okay. Yeah, SSL is one advanced topic. We definitely have it in the our syllabus. Okay, we will cover this SSL, where I will show you how do we create these self-signed certificate, and we put it on the webs. So we will definitely go with these topics. So guys, see, the main intention of today's class was to understand what is LTM. So if you are good with LTM, then in the next class we can go with the next steps, like how do we activate this LTM, how do we license this, then we can start creating some whips and all those things. So yes, every class there will be new way of making this LTM parts simplified. But from class 1, can I expect that you guys have understood what is LTM and what is the purpose of using LTM in the enterprise? So any doubt here?
Good for now.
Okay. So guys, I think we will wind up for the day. Okay, not let's not rush, because a lot of guys have no good background with F5. So for today, let's keep it with this topic, that what is LTM, where do we keep it, and little bit on the lab things, all those things. Okay, so tomorrow's class, when we start, we will go with some LTM activation scenes. Okay, I will show you how we activate and how we bring up these devices. So that is what I am gonna keep it for the class 2. Okay.
Yes, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Would you show this how to implement it eventually as well?
Okay, EVNG. Okay, so I have to see what image I can get for EVNG. The reason why I don't use EVNG is my EVNG is on my local machine, and this GNS is on my EXI. So these are very high intense devices which need two vCPUs and at least 8 GB. So that is one reason why I don't have a EVNG example for you. But don't worry, I will show you something for EVNG as well. Okay.
Okay, and would you be providing the servers, the VMs, and everything for our home lab as well?
Yeah. So as usual, our backend team will contact you. They will provide you the local setup, as well as they will help you on the remote setup. Okay. So I'll talk
That's
to
going to be Abdul,
yeah,
right?
yes. So I'll
Okay.
talk to Abdul, and then I'll get this thing sorted up. And as usual, web portal, you will get it, where we'll start placing these recordings. Okay, those who missed can go ahead and watch it, or after the class, and also you still have the access, you can watch them. Okay, so it's a lifetime access to the web portal.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, guys. So if we don't have any doubt, we can take a break today and we can connect tomorrow.
Oh, one more question. So these classes would be weekdays or weekends or
Yeah,
how?
yeah. So regarding to the classes, yes. So guys, this I'm actually planning to keep it Wednesday to Friday only. Okay, the reason is from Saturday and Sunday we have introduced the CCI lab, the SD WAN, and CCNP courses, which is starting from this weekend, from 27th of Feb. Okay, so I don't want to disturb those guys who have already taken up F5 as well as CCI thing. Okay, and the other reason why I'm not going from Monday is from Monday uh, till Wednesday, I have a automation batch, the DevNet Python programming batch. Okay, so there are students who can overlap here, who can overlap, and who can overlap. So for now, since this is your first week, I just kept it Thursday and Friday. From next weekend, we can see if we can go with Wednesday to Friday, or we can stick with Thursday to Friday with a bigger or a wider session of like 3 hours or something. Or if it is Wednesday to Friday, then we can keep 2 hours per day, 2 into 3 days. Or if it is just two class, then we can keep it 3 hours into two. So both makes it 6 hours. Okay, we will see how it goes.
Okay, and how long do you expect this course to go? Like a month,
Yeah,
7 hours?
yeah. Kind of a month. It's gonna be 20 to 30 hours of content. Okay, so definitely we will touch 1 month, 1 month, or might be a week or 2 week more than a month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we will see that. Okay, Wednesday to Friday or Thursday to Friday. Yes, I will not. I'll not try to take 3 hours because I know you folks would be working or you guys would be uh, going traveling or going to office or on the way. So it would not be a 3 hours. It could be either 2 or 2 to 2.5 hours. Okay, so we will see that if it is Wednesday to Friday, we can go with 2 hours, or else we can go with 2 to 2.5 hours. Okay.
Rather, just making sure the workbooks will be available, right, for this?
Yeah, so I will give you the workbook and the class note. So let's say for today's class was just a theory, so I'll give you the notes for theory. When it comes to notes, I'll give you with the screenshot, so you know step by step you can configure the things yourself as well. All right, guys, so any further doubts with respective to notes or lab or web portal?
Do you have more explanation in your work? And I know you're going to go through this again, but how did you configure all these IP addresses and all that so that we can wait before we can come to that class, or is it something on fly?
Okay, so see, IPs are gonna be random, but yeah, I will show you one IP schema for this, because this is something which we built just now. So I will show you how I
Okay.
how I'm gonna pick some private IPs here and some public IPs here. Okay. All right. So I see someone just joined. So we are about to end the class. Okay. So the recordings will be available in few minutes. Okay, no worries. So what we were discussing was we just went with the course intro, and we just discussed why FI is important, and just try to understand from students if they have any prior background or any experience on FI, and just the course timing discussion. Okay, nothing much that we discussed today.
Oh, so what is the time?
See, that is what either we will go with the Wednesday to Friday time slot, or we will go with Thursday and Friday. Okay, so we will see how it goes.
That's fine.
Okay.
But tomorrow we have.
Yeah. So tomorrow we have a class. Yes, tomorrow we have a class at same time, 8:30 p.m. IST.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, the recordings will be given on the web portal. Okay. So once I upload it, what I'll do is, uh, I think you guys already have access to the web portal, right? You guys have the Palo Alto access. So the same credential and same logins will work once again for FI. I'll send you guys an email with the web portal link. So when you click that link, it will load on your web browser. Just give the same username and password, and then you will be able to watch this recording. Okay, the same process that we maintain for all other course. All right, guys, so let's wind up and have a nice day. We'll connect tomorrow same timing. Okay.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.